Hi, I'm down at the end of our field in an area we call the Wild Woods. It's an area where there are a lot of springs coming up from underground. It's very wet, it's very boggy. It's not much used agriculturally, so as a result over the years it's just been left. And because of that it's become very overgrown with willow, also with gorse and some bracken and so on. I'm down here because I'm going to take some cuttings of willow today because we want to make some windbreaks along the boundary of our field because we're quite high up. We get a fair amount of wind and we need to protect our crops in future from wind. So one of the first things we need to do on this piece of land is to start getting the windbreaks in. One of the very best things though on this piece of land is going to be willow because it grows very fast. Almost all willows will grow up to half a metre to a metre every year. They're also very comfortable in wetter ground, which we have here where I'm standing right now, but also some of the areas at the bottom of the field are quite wet. It is fantastic for wildlife. The pussy willow type of stuff which is growing behind me here is really good for a whole range of different bird life and insects and butterflies, but all of the native willows are fantastic for wildlife. And it is so easy to propagate, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. So what we've got growing down here is something known as pussy willow, which is actually the general name given to two different types of willow, grey willow and goat willow. They both grow to about 10 metres high, which is perfect for what we need. Because willow is such a resilient and vigorous tree, it's going to be a fantastic windbreak for us. It's going to grow fast, it's going to grow strong, and it's going to be able to block the wind that's flying into our field from the south and raise it up over the crops. So we'll go much more into the windbreak design when we get round to that, which we're coming to soon. But in the meantime, we're going to take a load of cuttings of this willow and we're going to stick them in a nursery bed so that they're just saved for us now. The time to take cuttings for willow is the winter, when the tree is dormant, when it's asleep. As you can see behind me, there's not much growth going on except for that bramble in the corner. Most of the plants here are asleep in the winter, and we're going to cut them now. We're going to take the cuttings of some really good strong growth. It's been there for a couple of years already. Then I'll show you how we propagate it. So this willow here, at some point, it's down by the drainage ditch at the end of our field in the Wild Woods, and at some point it's collapsed and fallen down onto the ground because it's such a tough old thing. It's carried on growing and it's sending up shoots all the way along its trunk and reclaiming growth, carrying on again. And you can see down at this point, probably at some point it's been damaged. Maybe one of the branches was snapped as it fell over, and that's encouraged it. Essentially that's like pruning it. That's a natural process that pruning is mimicking, and as a result it's sent up all of these new shoots. They're probably not that old, maybe just a couple, so maybe a few years old. Each one of these can now be cut off, every single one of them. That will then encourage this whole part of the tree to send up a whole load of new shoots, and we could do that again in a couple of years if we wanted to. It's happening further down there as well. There's a whole load of new shoots coming. Now, we probably want to leave the thicker ones. They're going to maybe not take quite as well, so something maybe as thick as this here, we'd leave that there. We can take it, absolutely can take it for wood if we want to, and the tree will send up more shoots again. For what we need, which is stems that we can put into the ground to encourage them to send out roots and start growing themselves in the ground, I reckon that one's probably a bit too thick. This is the kind of size that we're looking for. This size and even this size would be fine. They'll grow very, very well. This tree's a really good example of the tree sending out plenty of healthy, fresh growth. It's still very, very vigorous and healthy, this tree. I've no idea how old it is, but by the look of the moss on it, it's been here quite some time. As you can see all the way along the trunk, these fresh stems growing all the way along, up and up and up, all the way we go. So we only took stewardship of this land a few months ago, and from our perspective this is our first harvest, but we've done nothing really to achieve this harvest. It's all been done by the trees behind me that have been quietly producing this stock that we've taken. So we've taken our fair share, we've taken what is healthy for the trees to take, and we're grateful to them for it. We're doing it for our own ends to help protect the crops we're going to grow, but we've chosen to plant willow and some of the other things we're going to plant because it's good for the land and because it's good for the visiting wildlife too. So this collaboration between us and the trees and us and the land is what Patch of the Planet is all about. Okay, it's a new day. Yesterday I cut the willow. It's been sitting in water overnight. Got 57 stems of it in the end. It's perfectly fine to keep willow sitting in a bucket of water for several days while you decide where you're going to plant it. Or if you want to, you can even leave it in water for several weeks and it will start to root in the water before you plant it. But then you always risk damaging the roots, the little tiny delicate roots on the willow as you put it in the soil. So the best thing is actually to plant it straight into the soil. But you can leave it in water for a few days while you decide what to do with it, or find the time to get on with it. If you look closely on there, you can see there are some buds. So that's where the leaves and the branches would have grown from it had it been staying on the tree. That's now where the roots are going to come out. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this bit of willow about 20-30 centimetres into the soil. All you need to do is make a hole in the soil, stick a stick in or a metal pole, make a nice deep hole 20-30 centimetres in, and then shove this willow in there. That's it. That's all you need to do. Just put it in and it will grow. If you make a nice hole like this, you don't want to do this with the willow itself because you're going to damage the stem as you do it. So just get some in the old stick or a bit of metal, make a nice deep hole, then take your willow and put it in. There we go. Push the soil in around the stem, and that's as good as you need to do. Now if it's very dry, give it some water. If it becomes very dry, give it some water, and try and keep the base around the willow clear for a good year or so if you can, so you don't get any competition from grass and so on. In this case we're actually going to just leave it here for a little bit while we prepare where it's going to be planted as a windbreak. So if I just lift the camera up here, you can see I've got quite a lot of the willow growing now. It's all been what's called heeled in. It's just laying there under the soil at an angle. It's going to sit there for a little while, and then in a few weeks we're going to put it into its final position. It's 10:30 at night, and it suddenly dawned on me that I didn't even say thank you for watching, so I thought I'd come back out to the willow to do that. I hope it's been useful. That's how to take cuttings and propagate willow. Really simple process. I'll show you how it comes along. We'll do some videos on windbreaks very soon, amongst other things. If it's of any use, please do comment or like or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks.